From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Challenging anti-trans legislation and finding a way to laugh about it. That's the idea behind a new national comedy tour created by a trans comedian from Gunbarrel outside of Boulder. Ren Q Dawe is the organizer of the tour, which launches this Saturday at Junkyard Social in Boulder. And some of the comedy, which is performed by trans comics, revolves around literal potty humor. That's significant in an era when public bathrooms are contentious spaces. Ren told me he got the idea after an experience with homophobia caught him off guard. So, Ren, I mentioned literal toilet humor. The title of the tour is Here to Pee. Tell us the story that inspired this.
So it did indeed start out as a bit of a joke. I was just attending a show of a friend in Boulder, which we like to think of as pretty progressive as regions go. And I was confronted and accosted by four kind of drunken bros, if you will. And I just knew that in that moment, if they really decided to go for it, there would just be no way that I could take that. This was also right around the same time that we lost, I believe their name was Nex Benedict, to a really, really tragic assault in a school bathroom.
Right.
And it was definitely a bit of a wake-up call for me that a lot of this legislation that I know myself and other trans people scoffed at for the most part, to be like, you know, they're not going to stop us from using a bathroom. This is ridiculous. This is a distraction.
Sure.
But we know that at the end of the day, policy informs culture. So being able to kind of shift the narrative in the culture to bring some attention to this and to rehumanize trans people, as, you know, millions and millions of dollars in ads had been spent to dehumanize trans people for political gain. I think that was really important. So it kind of started out of a negative situation. I made a joke to be like, you know, what if we just took a bunch of trans people and we took them to all the places that they're implementing this legislation, and we looked it up, and it was, you know, more than half the states by a lot. It was closer to 38 to 40 states that had implemented or proposed some sort of anti-trans legislation in committee. And so, you know, I jokingly said, well, might as well do all 50. And so we're doing it.
Now, you were not always working in comedy, Ren. You used to work in the restaurant industry. What was the moment when comedy became the path forward for you?
So big shout out to all my food service workers out there. I think anybody that has worked in food or beverage or customer service in general knows how hard that can be. And as a way to cope with that stress, especially in the early stages of my medical transition when I didn't pass very well in public, I really turned to comedy. Dave Chappelle was absolutely one of my all-time favorite artists. And after a very particularly long and difficult day at my job in a kitchen, I went home and I was really excited to turn on this comedy special from my favorite comedian, and the entire special was basically just Dave Chappelle telling trans people to go disappear themselves. And it was just heartbreaking. And that really riled me up, and I got to a point where I was like, you know what? My life is ridiculous. I bet I could write a trans joke that's better than that. And as delusional and audacious as that may have been at the time, you know, I tried, and I found myself in a little open mic in a smoky pub in Atlanta, and I just fell in love with it and haven't stopped since.
What do you remember about stepping on stage for that first time?
Oh, I absolutely thought I was going to get shot in the parking lot. Frankly,
I shouldn't laugh, but...
Oh, I mean, certainly I do, right? If we can't laugh, what can we do? So I waltzed on up there, and I felt just the energy of the room really shift. And a lot of the jokes that had been very violent and very, I would say, anti-women, LGBTQ people, it started to change. And suddenly we were playing together instead of punching at each other. And that really made me question, a lot of what I had been told about how some people are lost causes if they don't agree with certain things that I know to be true. And I have seen that proven time and time again that laughter is indeed the swiftest route to allyship, and that being able to be on the in of a joke together is probably one of the best common denominators that we can have going into a conversation about really nuanced or really heated topics. I think that's really beautiful, and it kind of keeps me going in the comedy world.
Yeah. Comedy is amazing, and here's just more proof of that, I think. Ren, I want to listen to a quick clip of one of your jokes here. This one is about pronouns and how people use them.
Don't you hate that when people are like, back in my day, like... I hear that all the time, man, when people will be like, back in my day, we only had one pronoun, and we were so poor, we had to take turns.
Ren, you obviously take the rights of trans people very seriously. Is it hard to also find humor in this stuff?
No, not at all. I think that it is a fertile ground for joke making and joke crafting. A lot of what we're seeing politically is almost inherently joke worthy. And so I think that this is a wonderful field for queer people. It's really empowering to take narratives that have been spun around name calling or stereotypes or, kind of expectations, awkward situations, weird family circumstances, and being able to shift that context makes something almost inherently funny. And it's something that I think LGBTQ people and trans people especially encounter all the time.
Now, you are going to visit all 50 states on your tour. You've talked about how part of your budget for the tour is for posting bail in case any of your performers are arrested. How big of a risk do you feel like you're taking in going on this tour?
I'm not sure. I think
we're going to find out.
we're going to find that out. I think that a lot of states that have pretty strict anti-trans bathroom legislation, they're still very nuanced, and they don't necessarily even have the expected enforcement clearly laid out. So a lot of states, Utah, Wyoming, Texas, Florida, to name a few, have pretty intense legislation. However, it doesn't actually say, are we to be fined? Are we to be arrested? Are we, what level of a crime is it for me to use a restroom in a public space? And so I think that, while we certainly want to be careful and we're trying to make safety considerations, I also genuinely, for people that disagree with this quote unquote lifestyle, with people that don't necessarily want trans people to have the same rights as their cis peers, I would like them to come to a show. I would love to be able to talk to them. I would love for us to be able to share a laugh together and find out if we do have anything in common, because I'd be willing to bet money that we do.
Ren Q Dawe organized a 50-state comedy tour featuring trans comedians that kicks off Saturday at Junkyard Social in Boulder. We'll have a link in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thank you so much for listening.